As soon as you have a problem, try and figure it out. And if you can't figure it out, put up your hand and ask for help. Because the longer you try and keep it quiet, the bigger the problem gets. I've never seen a small problem go away because people ignore it. Small problems get bigger. It's about understanding that office politics matter. And most people think office politics are negative, but actually office politics can be quite positive because you get to talk about other people, you get to understand them better. But what you should understand is that we do all talk about each other all the time. That's what us people are like. We do that. But maybe the bigger lesson for me was that actually sometimes when you go to another culture or another country, sometimes to make other people feel more comfortable, you have to adapt some of the things you do and how you do them. And what I adapted was my English, my use of the English language, so that now hopefully I can stand up in front of you guys and you can actually understand me, which you probably wouldn't have done, 25 years ago. If you always do your own job and also try and do a bit of your boss's job and do it well, people recognize it and they give you opportunities. So sometimes you don't need to go through that formal process. You just need to demonstrate that you're willing to take on a challenge and that you're up for it. And if you demonstrate that, you'd be amazed how many people will just spot you and go, you know what, that's a really good person. And they'll come to you and say, do you fancy doing this? It's a great lesson. I wouldn't underestimate how powerful it is. The fact that I've managed to go 25 years without doing a job interview says it works. Be respectful and build great teams. And I don't think I've ever shouted at anybody in business, and I think I would fire anybody who did. There is no cause for it. You need to be very respectful of people. Even if they give you the wrong answer or they don't give you the right answer, you have no idea what their day has been like. You have no idea whether their mum died yesterday or their cat got rolled over by a car or whatever happened. So sometimes you just need to give people a bit of slack. If people consistently underperform, you need to take action. And probably one of the most important things about being a leader is part of being respectful is having honest conversations with people. And there are so many leaders that I meet that are afraid to tell people what they really think when it comes to performance, because they think they're being kind by not telling whoever works for them the truth. So if you're not performing, I'm not going to tell you, but I'll drop lots of subtle hints. I'll leave the newspaper open on your desk that's got lots of job adverts in it. Whereas, actually, you get a lot more respect from people if you're honest. And I think most of the people that I work with know that there isn't a single thing I would say about them that I won't say to them. And the reality is, most of us, I think 99.99% of us prefer that. You would prefer to know what your manager thinks. Because at least that way you get the opportunity to fix it or to decide if it's not going to work for you. So one of the things about being respectful, I think, is be honest, and people will really appreciate it. It makes a huge difference. And out of being honest and being respectful, you will genuinely build great teams. As long as you learn from your mistakes and you're understanding when other people make mistakes, that's great, but you need to learn from them. But what you shouldn't do is make the same mistake twice. If you always retain a part of yourself that's humble and willing to learn, you'd be amazed how much more you will learn and how much more people are willing to teach you. But if you come in and you're arrogant, and there are lots of arrogant people around, then other people won't want to teach you. One of the things that I have learned is that sometimes you get to a position in a job and you feel good about it because you know what you're doing and you're enjoying it. And then you step off and you go into another job and you go back down to the bottom of the ladder because you absolutely have to start to learn all over again. So whereas in this job auditing, I felt I knew what I was doing, I was very comfortable, and I understood how it all worked and I could do really good audits. I then left the auditing side and I went in to be the financial controller of a bank, and I hadn't a clue. I literally hadn't an idea. And so I had to start from scratch all over again and start learning again. But that's been one of the things throughout all of the roles I've done, is that every time I've stepped off a job into a new job, it sort of suddenly hits me that, you know what, I think I know what I'm doing, but all I've done is moved over here, and suddenly I don't have an idea, and I have to start again. And that's probably one of the greatest challenges about changing roles, and it's one of the things that keeps me really enthusiastic about the jobs I go into, is that it's always new. Is when you run a multinational operation, what you absolutely want to believe is that when there's a problem in one of your overseas operations, that the people are going to pick up the phone straight away and tell you. It's probably one of the most important things in a group, when you're in the group head office, that you genuinely believe that if there's an issue, people will tell you as soon as they know. That when times are really tough, that's when you find out if you have a good team. When you give people opportunities and you say to them, yeah, go on, do that. If it goes wrong, but you have signed it off, you should stand in front of them when it goes wrong and say, it's my responsibility as well, because I was the one that agreed this. And I think that's incredibly important, to be willing to give people the opportunity, but more important than the success is when it goes wrong, because some of these things will go wrong, be willing to say that you agreed with the idea. Because there are some people who go, I never agreed. Oh, terrible idea. But the most important thing that I've learned through all of this and the restructurings is to learn how to empathize with people. Try and put yourself in the position that people are coming from, not from the position you're at. And it'll teach you a lot about their motivation. And in fact, what it will do is it'll teach you how to change that person's mind if you need to. If you start off and you're like this and you don't understand where somebody's coming from, it's very difficult to change their mind. But if you can figure out their motivation and where they're coming from, it's much easier to find the little levers that help you to change that person's mind. Most of all, I think what I've learned is that being surrounded by fantastic people is the best thing you could ever do for your career. So if you can, most times I walk into a room and I recognize the fact that I am the least smart person in the room, but I never tell anybody. I just get on with it, and then I ask lots of questions and I learn things. So if you can be lucky enough to surround yourself with great teams and great people, and if you can energize them and motivate them, you'll do really, really well.